Welcome, intrepid listeners, to the shadows of history, where the line between the living and the dead blurs into obscurity. Today, we embark on a journey not for the faint of heart, a descent into the abyss of Paris, into the realm of the forgotten, the Catacombs of Paris. Beneath the bustling streets of the City of Lights lies a dark world, a silent city of bones, where the whispers of the past echo through the endless tunnels, and the secrets of the dead lurk in the shadows. Imagine, if you will, a labyrinthine network, a vast ossuary holding the remains of over 6 million souls, their final resting place far from the warmth of the sun, in the chilling embrace of the earth. This is not just a burial site. It is a monument to mortality, a macabre gallery of history that tells tales of despair, plague, revolution, and the ceaseless march of time. But, dear listeners, as we venture into the heart of darkness, remember, the catacombs are alive, not with the living, but with the stories of those long past. And some stories, they say, are eager to find new listeners, to whisper their truths to those daring enough to listen. So, clutch your courage close as we peel back the veil of the ordinary, stepping into the extraordinary, into a world where the echoes of footsteps might belong to those who walked these tunnels centuries ago, or perhaps to something else. Prepare to uncover the mysteries that dwell within the catacombs of Paris, where every turn might reveal a new horror, and every shadow could hide an ancient curse. Join me as we begin our tale, a true horror story forged from the depths of history and nightmare, where reality may prove more terrifying than any fiction. Welcome to the darkness. Welcome to the catacombs. In the heart of Paris, where the modern pulse of the city beats strongest, our protagonist, Alex, lived a life draped in ordinariness. A historian by trade, Alex's fascination with the past was confined to dusty books and ancient manuscripts, until one rain-soaked evening, when fate decided to weave a thread of the extraordinary into the fabric of your life. The day had been unremarkable, the kind where hours blend indistinctly into each other. But as nightfall embraced the city, a peculiar envelope found its way to Alex's doorstep. The paper was aged, its edges worn, as if it had traveled through time to reach them. Inside, an invitation written in elegant, if not slightly trembling, script, beckoned Alex to embark on a journey into the depths of history, to explore the unseen and forgotten chambers of the catacombs of Paris. Accompanying the letter was a map, its lines and contours hinting at passages and rooms not found in any tourist guide. Places where the air is thick with the dust of ages, and silence speaks volumes. The invitation was devoid of a sender's name, offering no clue but a cryptic seal at its bottom, depicting a skull entwined with roses. It was an enigma wrapped in mystery, a call to adventure that stirred a mix of exhilaration and apprehension in Alex's heart. The rational part of their mind screamed of caution, of the dangers of venturing into the unknown, into a world where the living were mere visitors in the domain of the dead. Yet, the historian within, the seeker of hidden truths, could not resist the allure of uncovering secrets buried beneath the city streets. As Alex studied the map, tracing the routes with a tentative finger, they couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched, as if the shadows in their apartment had grown eyes. The wind seemed to whisper through the cracks, carrying voices from the past, or perhaps it was just the city breathing outside their window. The decision to accept the invitation was not made lightly. It was the kind of choice that felt predestined, as if the paths of their life had converged to this singular moment, urging them forward into the embrace of the unknown. The map beckoned to places shrouded in darkness, where history and horror intertwined, where the air was heavy with the echoes of the past. To venture into the catacombs was to step into a world apart, a realm where the past was not dead, but merely sleeping, waiting for the brave or the foolish to awaken its stories. So, with the map as their guide and curiosity as their companion, Alex made the decision to journey into the heart of darkness. Little did they know, the catacombs were more than just a resting place for the dead. They were a labyrinth of secrets, where each turn could lead to wonder or terror, and every shadow held the possibility of an ancient curse or a hidden truth. As Alex prepared for their descent into the catacombs, they couldn't shake the feeling that this journey would change them. The invitation was not just a call to explore the physical depths of Paris, but an invitation to delve into the depths of their own soul, to confront the shadows that lurk in the darkness, both within and without. The night before their journey was restless, filled with dreams of winding tunnels and whispering bones, of shadows that moved with intent and eyes that gleamed in the darkness. When dawn broke, painting the sky in hues of gray and gold, Alex set out, the map folded in your pocket, and a sense of impending discovery coursing through their veins. What lies ahead, in the uncharted depths of the catacombs, is a tale of darkness and light, of fear and courage, of the past reaching out to touch the present. Join us as we follow Alex into the shadows, where history waits to tell its tales, and the line between the living and the dead fades into obscurity. Welcome, dear listeners, to Chapter 1 of our journey into the heart of darkness. Welcome to the Catacombs of Paris. As dawn's first light pierced the veil of darkness over Paris, our protagonist, Alex, found themselves at the designated meeting point, a quaint cafe shadowed by the city's ancient architecture, where history whispered through the cobblestone streets. Here, they would meet the others drawn into this enigmatic journey into the depths of the catacombs. each with their own reasons for venturing into the heart of darkness. First to join Alex was Marie, a local journalist known for her investigative prowess, and a penchant for uncovering the city's most guarded secrets. With her keen eye and unwavering determination, Marie sought the thrill of the story hidden beneath the surface, the tales that the dead would tell if given a voice. Her presence brought an air of intensity to the group, her curiosity a mirror to Alex's own. Then came Thomas, a seasoned urban explorer whose exploits had taken him to the forgotten and forbidden places of the world. The catacombs represented the ultimate challenge, a conquest not of physical prowess, but of facing the unknown that lurked in the shadows. His reasons were personal, a quest for redemption, and a test of courage against the backdrop of eternal silence. Quiet and observant, Elise introduced herself next, an artist fascinated by the macabre beauty of decay and desolation. She sought inspiration among the bones of the past. The catacombs, with their haunting allure, promised a canvas like no other, where the line between life and death blurred into artistry. Her perspective added a layer of haunting beauty to the journey, a reminder of the elegance that resides in the ephemeral. Lastly, there was Victor, an academic whose life's work revolved around the myths and legends of Paris, skeptical of the supernatural, yet fascinated by the folklore surrounding the catacombs. He joined the expedition to separate fact from fiction, to prove or disprove the tales that have captivated him since youth. His knowledge of the city's lore provided a grounding force, a beacon of reason in the face of the unknown. As the group gathered, exchanging tentative greetings and curious glances, a bond formed, a collective driven by diverse desires, yet united by a single quest. They were not merely strangers, they were fellow travelers on a path that promised to reveal more than just hidden chambers and lost corridors. They sought understanding, enlightenment, and perhaps a glimpse into the true nature of the catacombs beyond the realm of the living. With the map unfurled on a cafe table, Alex shared the details of the invitation and the ancient map that guided their journey. The air was thick with anticipation as they discussed their plan of entry, a route that would take them deep into the heart of the catacombs, beyond the well-trodden paths of tourists, and into the uncharted darkness. As they set off, the city around them seemed to hold its breath, the early morning light casting long shadows that danced across the streets. The entrance to the catacombs loomed before them, a portal to another world, where the echo of each step whispered tales of those who had walked these paths before them. With a final glance at the world above, they descended, the light of day fading behind them, replaced by the dim glow of their torches. The air grew cooler, the silence more profound, as if the very walls were listening, the shadows moving just beyond the edge of vision. Fear and excitement intertwined, each step forward a defiance of the ordinary, a journey into the heart of what it means to be alive in the presence of so much death. As they ventured deeper, the reasons that brought them together became the threads of a story yet to be told, a narrative woven from the fabric of their combined experiences. What awaited them in the depths of the catacombs was unknown, a mystery shrouded in darkness and history. But one thing was certain: they were no longer just individuals driven by personal quests. They were a group, bound by the shared journey into the unknown, each step forward a testament to their courage, their curiosity, and their willingness to face the darkness together. And so, dear listeners, our tale of exploration and discovery continues as our protagonists delve deeper into the catacombs, where the past and present collide, and every shadow holds a secret waiting to be unveiled. Join us as we follow their journey into the depths where light and darkness dance, and the stories of the dead beckon to those brave enough to listen. Welcome to the heart of darkness. Welcome to the journey beneath Paris. The air was cool and thick with anticipation as our intrepid group stood before the gateway to the underworld, the entrance to the Catacombs of Paris. This was the threshold between the living city above and the silent city below, a realm where the past was eternally preserved in the embrace of the earth. With each breath, they inhaled the weight of history, and with each exhale, they ventured further from the comfort of the known. As they began their descent, the light from the surface faded, swallowed by the gaping maw of the catacombs. Their footsteps echoed against the ancient stones, a reminder of their intrusion into a domain where silence reigned supreme. The only illumination came from their torches, casting long, dancing shadows that seemed to move of their own volition, as if the darkness itself was alive, reaching out to envelop them in its cold embrace. The air grew colder, a chill that seeped into their bones, a tangible reminder of the presence of death. The walls, lined with the remains of millions, watched in silent judgment, their empty eye sockets following the group's every move. It was a macabre gallery, a testament to the inevitability of mortality, and, as they ventured deeper, the realization dawned upon them that they were not alone in this labyrinth of the dead. The silence was oppressive, a weight that bore down on them with an intensity that was almost physical. It was broken only by the sound of their footsteps and the occasional drip of water, each drop a punctuation mark in the endless quiet. The darkness seemed to press against their eyes, a void that their torchlight could only penetrate so far, leaving the rest to their imagination. And in the darkness, the mind conjured horrors far worse than any reality. Whispers began to fill the air, soft and indistinct, as if the walls themselves were speaking. At first, they were dismissed as the product of their strained nerves, the auditory illusions born of silence and expectation. But as they continued, the whispers grew louder, more insistent, a cacophony of voices from the past, each telling their own tale of life, death, and the space in between. The group's initial resolve began to fracture under the weight of the oppressive atmosphere. Murray's camera seemed to capture shadows that were not there, fleeting glimpses of movement in the periphery of her vision. Thomas, ever the skeptic, found his confidence waning, each step forward a battle against the rising tide of fear. Elise's fascination with the macabre turned to unease as she realized that art and reality were not so easily separated. Victor, armed with his knowledge of myths and legends, found that understanding did not equate to immunity against the palpable dread that filled these ancient tunnels. And Alex, you have led them into this abyss, felt the burden of responsibility like a yoke around their neck. The map, once a beacon of adventure, now seemed the harbinger of doom, leading them not to discovery, but to despair. As they ventured deeper into the heart of darkness, the line between the living and the dead blurred. The catacombs were no longer just a burial site. They were a realm of their own, a place where the rules of the world above ceased to apply. Here, in the embrace of the earth, time stood still, and a past reached out to touch the present, a reminder that some doors, once opened, cannot be closed. The group's journey had only just begun, but already the shadows seemed to close in around them, a tangible reminder of the horror that awaited. For in the depths of the catacombs, beneath the city of light, darkness reigned supreme, and fear was the currency of the realm. Join us, dear listeners, as our tale unfolds, a story of courage and terror, of darkness and the indomitable human spirit. Venture with us into the shadows, where the line between reality and nightmare is as thin as the veil that separates life from death. Welcome to the descent into darkness. Welcome to the Catacombs of Paris. In the depths of the earth, beneath the city of Paris, our group of explorers, led by curiosity and haunted by fear, pressed on through the catacombs' enveloping darkness. The path they followed, a mere whisper on an ancient map, brought them to a forgotten section of the labyrinth, a place where the air felt heavier, as if saturated with the unseen and the untold. As they ventured deeper, the narrow passageway opened into a series of hidden chambers, each shrouded in shadows and secrecy. The torchlight flickered against the walls, revealing scenes that sent shivers down their spines and made their blood run cold. The first chamber they entered was a small, circular room, the walls lined with niches that cradled skulls and bones arranged in macabre patterns. But it was not the presence of the dead that chilled them to the core. It was the arrangement of the remains, which seemed intentional, deliberate, as if they were symbols in a ritual long forgotten. At the center of the room stood an altar, its surface stained with the patina of age and perhaps other substances long dried. The air was thick with the scent of decay and something else, something metallic and sharp. Murray's camera captured the eerie beauty of the chamber, but the images seemed to pulsate with an unseen energy, as if the room itself was alive and watching. Thomas, ever the brave soul, approached the altar, his hand hovering above the ancient stains, a look of grim fascination on his face. Healy sketched the patterns of the bones, her artistry capturing the chilling elegance of the chamber. Victor, his voice a whisper, recounted tales of ancient rites and ceremonies that spoke of communion with the dead, of doorways to realms beyond our understanding. And Alex, the heart of the group, felt a deepening sense of dread, a realization that this chamber was but the beginning. The next chamber was larger, its walls adorned with frescoes that depicted scenes of life and death, joy and suffering, in vivid hues that seemed untouched by time. In a flickering torchlight, the painted figures appeared to move, their eyes following the group as they passed. The floor was covered in a mosaic of tiles, each depicting a symbol or breath, the meanings lost to time, but suggesting a narrative of celestial alignment and spiritual transcendence. At the far end of the chamber stood a statue, a figure cloaked in robes, its face hidden beneath a hood, hands extended, as if in offering or warning. The statue, carved from a dark stone that absorbed the light, seemed to pulse with a power that was felt rather than seen. The group circled the statue warily, each feeling an inexplicable pull towards it, a desire to uncover its secrets, and fear of what those secrets might be. As they explored further, they found more chambers, each with its own disturbing remnants of past ceremonies and rituals. One room contained a circle of stones, each engraved with cryptic symbols, the ground within the circle scorched as if by fire. Another held a collection of artifacts, objects of bone, wood, and stone, each imbued with a sense of purpose and power. The further they ventured, the more the line between the past and the present blurred. The chambers seemed to exist out of time, relics of a forgotten epoch, where the boundaries between the living and the dead, the material and the spiritual, were traversed with reverence and fear. With each chamber they explored, the group felt an increasing sense of unease, a feeling that they were not merely observers of these ancient rites, but somehow participants, drawn into a narrative that had been unfolding long before they entered the catacombs. The whispers in the dark grew louder, a cacophony of voices that seemed to echo from the very walls, speaking in languages forgotten by the living, but remembered by the dead. And so, dear listeners, our explorers found themselves entangled in the web of history and horror, participants in a story that transcended time. As they delved deeper into the heart of darkness, into the hidden chambers that held the remnants of past ceremonies and rituals, they began to realize that some doors, once opened, cannot be closed, and some truths, once uncovered, cannot be forgotten. Join us as we continue our journey into the depths, where each step reveals horrors and wonders beyond comprehension, where the past reaches out to the present, and the boundary between life and death is but a shadow in the torchlight. Welcome to the journey into the heart of darkness, into the Catacombs of Paris, where history whispers from the shadows, and fear walks hand in hand with fascination. As our group ventured deeper into the labyrinth of the Catacombs of Paris, the atmosphere began to thicken, not just with the dust of ages, but with a growing sense of dread that clung to their skins like a second layer. The air, stagnant and heavy, seemed to compress around them, making each breath a labor, each step a defiance against the pressing weight of the unseen. The initial fascination with the hidden chambers and their macabre secrets gave way to a creeping unease. The further they delved, the more they felt the gaze of the unseen upon them, a sensation of being watched, followed by entities that slipped through the shadows just beyond the reach of their torchlight. It was in this oppressive silence that the whispers began, soft and insidious, threading through the group like a chill wind. At first, these whispers were dismissed as the product of their strained nerves, a natural reaction to the oppressive environment. But as they continued, the sounds became impossible to ignore. Whispers turned into murmurs, then into voices, clear enough to discern words, yet in languages that twisted the tongue, ancient and forgotten. These voices seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere, bouncing off the stone walls, making it impossible to pinpoint their source. The effect on a group was immediate and profound. Paranoia began to take root, fed by the darkness and the ever-present whispers. Accusations were made in hushed tones, questioning the sanity of their ears, the reliability of their companions. Marie's camera, which had faithfully captured every moment of their journey, now seemed to betray them, its lens focusing on shadows that moved of their own accord, shapes that seemed to vanish when looked at directly. Thomas, once the pillar of strength, started to jump at the slightest sound, his eyes darting to the dark corners, as if expecting something to emerge. Elise found her sketches growing more frantic, the lines capturing not just the beauty of decay, but the terror of the unseen, her art becoming a reflection of the group's collective fear. Victor, you had always found comfort in the logic of history and myth, now found himself questioning the very fabric of reality. The catacombs seemed to defy all reason, a place where the past was not dead but alive, whispering secrets meant to remain buried. And Alex, you have led them into this abyss, felt the weight of their decision like a millstone, the responsibility for the safety of the group a constant pressure. The psychological horror of being trapped underground began to surface, the realization that they were miles beneath the city, isolated from the world of the living, in a realm where the line between the past and the present, the living and the dead, blurred into obscurity. Claustrophobia set in, the narrow walls of the catacombs closing in on them, the ceiling pressing down, as if the earth itself was intent on swallowing them whole. As they pressed on, the voices grew louder, more insistent, as if angered by their presence. The air turned colder, the darkness deeper, a physical manifestation of the terror that gripped their hearts. It was no longer a question of whether they were alone in the catacombs. It was a question of who or what accompanied them in the darkness. And then, just as the tension reached its breaking point, the voices stopped. The sudden silence was as jarring as the whispers had been, a void that echoed in their ears, a pause that felt like the calm before a storm. The group, united by fear and the shared desire to find a way out, realized that the true horror of the catacombs was not in the bones of the dead, but in the living minds that wandered its corridors, where the greatest dangers lurked in the shadows of their own fears. As they gathered their courage, the group knew that the only way out was forward, deeper into the heart of darkness, where the secrets of the catacombs awaited, shrouded in silence and shadow. Join us, dear listeners, as we follow their journey into the unknown, where every step may be their last, and the only certainty is the terror that lurks in the whispers of the dark. Welcome to the catacombs, where the past whispers and the shadows dance, and where fear becomes the key to survival. In the heart of darkness, beneath the vibrant life of Paris, our group of explorers, bound by fear and driven by curiosity, continued their journey through the catacombs. The silence that followed the ceaseless whispers was a cold comfort, a brief respite that did little to ease the tension that gripped them. It was in this uneasy quiet that they encountered a presence that would forever alter the course of their expedition. As they navigated through a narrow corridor, the light from their torches fell upon a figure standing motionless ahead. Cloaked in shadows, the figure seemed almost to blend into the darkness, a specter at the threshold between the known and the unknowable. The group halted, breaths caught in their throats, as the figure stepped forward, revealing itself to be a person, though their features remained obscured by the dim light. The mysterious figure spoke, their voice a whisper that carried through the silence with an eerie clarity. "You tread on sacred ground," they began. "Beneath the city of lights lies a darkness that craves respect. The bones that line these walls are not just remnants of the past. They are guardians of secrets, keepers of stories untold." The group listened, captivated and frightened, as the figure continued. "You seek knowledge, you seek thrills, but be warned, not all who wander these depths find their way back. The catacombs are a labyrinth, not just of stone, but of spirits. They watch, they listen, and they remember. To disrespect their domain is to invite their wrath." Mary, emboldened by our quest for the truth, asked, "Who are you? How do you know of these dangers?" The figure, shrouded in mystery, replied, "I am but a guardian of this place, one who has walked these halls for longer than you can fathom. My duty is to protect the balance, to ensure that the line between the living and the dead remains undisturbed." Thomas, skeptical, challenged the figure. "And what of us? Are we in danger for simply being here?" The guardian's response was cryptic. "Danger lurks not in the presence of the dead, but in the intentions of the living. Tread carefully, for the path you follow is fraught with peril. There are forces within these walls that cannot be controlled, secrets that demand to remain hidden." Elise, ever the artist, found beauty in a guardian's words, a poetic warning that spoke to the depth of their situation. Victor, fascinated by the lore of the catacombs, signed a guardian link to the past, a living embodiment of the myths he had studied. And Alex, the leader of this ill-fated expedition, felt a deep responsibility for the safety of the group, the weight of the guardian's warning a heavy burden to bear. As the guardian vanished into the shadows from which they came, the group was left with more questions than answers. Who was this guardian of the catacombs? A protector of the dead, or a spirit bound to the darkness? Their warning hung in the air, a portent of dangers unseen and challenges yet to be faced. With renewed passion, the group pressed on, the words of the guardian echoing in their minds. The darkness seemed to close in around them, a reminder of the fine line they walked between curiosity and reverence, between the thrill of exploration and a respect to those who rested in the shadows. The encounter with the mysterious guardian had changed them, instilling a deeper sense of purpose and a realization of the gravity of their journey. They were not just explorers of physical spaces, but of the boundaries between worlds, where the past and present collided, and where the living must tread lightly in the realm of the dead. Join us, dear listeners, as we follow our group deeper into the catacombs, where every shadow could hide a secret, and every silence could be a warning. In the depths of Paris, beneath the city of light, lies a darkness teeming with stories, waiting for those brave enough or foolish enough to uncover them. Welcome to the journey into the heart of darkness, where the past whispers and the guardian watches, and where the line between the living and the dead is as thin as a shadow in the torchlight. In the enveloping darkness of the catacombs, beneath the pulsating heart of Paris, our group of explorers, each a bearer of the guardian's cryptic warning, ventured deeper, driven by a mixture of fear, curiosity, and an inexorable pull towards the unknown. The air around them felt charged, as if the very stones whispered secrets of the ages, secrets that were not meant to be heard by mortal ears. The labyrinthine passages twisted and turned, leading them to a chamber hidden away from the prying eyes of history. This chamber, untouched by time, held an air of solemnity, a sacred place that whispered of rituals and powers long forgotten. The walls were adorned with intricate carvings that told the story of Paris's ancient past, of civilizations that thrived in the shadow of gods and demons, their destinies intertwined with the city above. At the heart of the chamber stood a pedestal, and upon it, shrouded in darkness yet somehow gleaming with an inner light, lay an artifact. This object, small enough to be held in the palm of a hand, pulsed with a power that was palpable, a cursed relic linked to the very foundation of Paris. Its surface was covered in symbols that seemed to dance in the torchlight, a language lost to time, but filled with intention and malice. Marie, ever the seeker of truth, approached the artifact, her recorder capturing every moment. As she reached out, a sense of foreboding washed over the group, a collective intuition that to touch the artifact was to invite disaster. Yet, the pull of the unknown, the allure of uncovering a hidden chapter of history, was too strong to resist. The moment Marie's fingers brushed against the artifact, the chamber trembled, a low rumble that echoed through the catacombs. The air grew colder, and the torches flickered, as if struggling against an unseen force. The whispers that had haunted their journey crescendoed into a cacophony of voices, angry and mournful, as if the artifact served as a key, unlocking a door to the past that was meant to remain closed. Thomas, his skepticism faltering in the face of the undeniable, stepped forward, his voice steady but his fear evident. "We should not disturb what was meant to remain hidden," he warned. But his words were lost in the turmoil that enveloped the chamber. Elise, her artist's soul captivated by the beauty and horror of the moment, sketched the scene, her hand moving of its own accord. The artifact, and the chamber itself, seemed to come alive under her gaze, revealing secrets that were both magnificent and terrifying. Victor, drawn to the artifact by his love of history and lore, began to recite from memory the tales of ancient Perses and the powers that lay dormant beneath Paris. His voice, filled with a mixture of awe and dread, provided a backdrop to the unfolding drama, a reminder of the price of knowledge. And Alex, the leader who had guided them into the depths, felt the weight of their choices. The guardian's warning echoed in their mind, a prophecy of danger that they had failed to heed. The artifact, now awakened, seemed to gaze into the very soul of the group, a judgment passed, a sentence waiting to be executed. As the group stood, transfixed by the power of the cursed relic, they realized that the haunting of the catacombs was not a tale of ghosts and spirits, but of history itself, a history that clung to the bones of the dead and the relics left behind. The artifact, linked to the ancient past of Paris, held within it the stories of those who had come before, their hopes, their fears, and their darkness. In that moment, the group understood the true nature of the catacombs. They were not merely a burial place for the dead, but a repository of the past, a place where the line between the living and the dead was blurred by the artifacts and secrets that lay buried in the darkness. The chamber and the artifact had revealed their truth, a truth that was both a gift and a curse. The group, forever changed by what they had witnessed, knew that their journey was far from over. The catacombs held more secrets, more tales that begged to be uncovered. But at what cost? Join us, dear listeners, as we continue to follow our explorers through the winding darkness of the catacombs, where every shadow hides a story, and every relic holds the power to change the course of history. Welcome to the journey into the heart of darkness, where the past is alive, and the line between the cursed and the blessed is as thin as the edge of a knife. In the shadowed heart of the catacombs, beneath the city that never sleeps, our group of explorers found themselves bound to a fate they could not have imagined. The awakening of the cursed artifact had stirred something ancient, a force that lay dormant in the darkness, waiting for a whisper of life to awaken it from its slumber. The air in a chamber grew thick, a palpable tension that wrapped around them like a shroud. The walls, once silent keepers of the dead, now seemed to pulse with a life of their own. It was in this charged atmosphere that the group first became aware of their pursuers, entities not of flesh and bone, but of shadow and malice, awakened by the disturbance of their eternal rest. The first sign of their presence was a coldness that crept through the air, a chill that sank into the bones and sapped the warmth from their bodies. Then the shadows began to move, coalescing into forms that were human in shape, but void of humanity. These spectral entities, with eyes that glowed like coals in the dim light, fixed their gaze upon a group, an unspoken malice in their silent scrutiny. Marie, her camera now a lifeline to the reality they sought to escape, captured images of their pursuers. Though whether these would be evidence of their journey, or a last testament to their folly, she could not say. The figures in her photos were blurs, distortions of light and shadow that defied explanation. Yet their intent was unmistakably hostile. Thomas, who had faced many dangers in his explorations, found himself confronting a fear he could not outrun or outmaneuver. The catacombs, a maze of stone and darkness, became a prison from which there seemed no escape. Every turn they took, every passage they chose, led them deeper into the labyrinth, the spectral entities always one step behind, herding them towards an unknown fate. Elise, whose art had always been her solace, found no beauty in the horror that pursued them. Her sketches became frantic, a desperate attempt to understand the nature of their pursuers. But the pages remained empty, the shadows refusing to be captured by pencil and paper. Victor, with his vast knowledge of myths and legends, realized that they were facing something beyond the scope of human understanding. These were not mere ghosts or spirits. They were manifestations of the catacombs themselves, guardians of the darkness, avengers of the disturbed peace. And Alex, You have led them into this nightmare. Felt the weight of their despair. The artifact, a beacon of their curiosity, now seemed an anchor dragging them down into the depths of horror. Their presence in a catacombs had awakened a wrath that was ancient and unforgiving, a punishment for the trespasses of the living upon the domain of the dead. As they fled through the twisting corridors, the sounds of their pursuers filled the air, a symphony of whispers and wails that echoed off the walls, a reminder that they were not alone, that they were being hunted. The horror of being pursued in an inescapable labyrinth became their reality, each turn a gamble, each decision a matter of life or death. The group, once driven by a thirst for knowledge and adventure, now sought only survival. The catacombs, a place of history and mystery, had become a realm of terror, a maze with no exit, where the past clung to the present with a grip that was both spectral and all too real. Join us, dear listeners, as our tale of darkness and despair continues, a journey into the heart of fear, where the shadows have eyes, and the walls whisper secrets not meant for the living. In the catacombs beneath Paris, history is alive, and the line between the past and the present is as thin as the veil that separates life from death. Welcome to the nightmare, where every step could be your last, and escape is but a distant dream. In the suffocating darkness of the catacombs, beneath the city that above thrives in light and life, our group found themselves ensnared in a nightmare from which awakening seemed impossible. Their journey, once a quest for discovery, had turned into a desperate fight for survival against forces that defied the natural laws of the world above. In their frantic search for an escape, the labyrinth revealed not only the horrors that stalked its shadows, but also the darkness that lay hidden within their own ranks, testing the bonds that held them together. As they navigated the tortuous maze, the realization dawned upon them that their escape might demand a price too steep to pay. The spectral entities that haunted their steps were relentless, their presence an ever-tightening noose. It was in this crucible of fear and desperation that the first of the sacrifices was made. Thomas, whose bravery had faltered in the face of the unknown, stepped forward. His voice, once filled with skepticism, now carried a resolve born of acceptance. The darkness feeds on our fear, our presence here a violation of its sanctum, he said, his decision clear in his eyes. He chose to stay behind, a distraction to afford the others a chance to escape. His final act, one of redemption, for leading them deeper into the heart of darkness. The group protested, but Thomas's decision was irrevocable. With a final look that spoke volumes of regret and farewell, he turned back towards the shadows that encroached upon their fragile circle of light. His figure soon swallowed by the darkness, His sacrifice was a beacon of bravery that lit the way forward, yet it cast a shadow of grief upon the hearts of those who continued on. In the wake of Thomas's decision, secrets that had been buried beneath the surface began to emerge, like specters from the grave. Marie, haunted by the guilt of a story once twisted for fame, confessed her manipulation of truths that have led to the ruin of innocent lives. Her Pamela, once her tool to unveil the world's darkness, now seemed to her a mirror reflecting her own. Elise, whose art captured the beauty in decay, revealed her fear of the legacy she would leave behind. A legacy tainted by the darkness she had once sought to portray. Her sketches, once a testament to her talent, now felt like chains binding her to a past she wished to escape. Victor, the scholar of myths, admitted to his obsession with the Catacombs legend, a pursuit that had cost him his family, his friends, and nearly his sanity. His knowledge, once a source of pride, now seemed a curse, a path that led them into the very heart of darkness. And Alex, their leader, confronted the truth of their own ambition, a desire to make a mark upon the world that had driven them into the catacombs' depths. The artifact, the key to their quest, now symbolized their folly, a folly that had cost them dearly. In the face of these revelations, the group's bonds were tested as never before. The catacombs, a crucible of fear and darkness, had stripped away their facades, revealing the rot truth of their souls. Yet, it was in this moment of vulnerability that their true strength emerged. The sacrifices made, the secrets revealed, served not to divide them, but to forge a deeper connection, a unity born of shared despair and hope. With renewed determination, the group pressed on, their path lit not just by the flickering torchlight, but by the knowledge of the sacrifices made, the truths shared. They understood now that the catacombs demanded more than just their fear. It demanded their honesty, their acknowledgement of the darkness within themselves. Join us, dear listeners, as our tale of terror and redemption continues, a journey through the shadows, where each step is a test of courage, and each breath a defiance against the darkness. In the catacombs beneath Paris, history whispers secrets of the past, and survival demands not just the light of torches, but the light of truth. Welcome to the heart of darkness, where the path to escape is paved with sacrifices, and the bonds of humanity are forged in the fires of trial. In the depths of the Parisian catacombs, beneath the city's pulsing heart, our group of beleaguered explorers pushed forward, driven by a fragile hope and the sacrifices that had been made. The shadows that had pursued them relentlessly now seemed to recede, as if respecting the price already paid in their quest for escape. It was in this moment of respite, in a quiet that followed the storm of terror, that the true nature of the catacombs began to unveil itself, revealing secrets that challenge the very fabric of reality. As they navigated through the ancient corridors, a strange serenity enveloped them, a contrast so stark against the backdrop of fear and darkness they had faced. It was Alex who first noticed the subtle shift in the air, a vibrancy that seemed out of place in the realm of the dead. Following this invisible thread, they stumbled upon a chamber unlike any other they had encountered. This chamber, bathed in a soft, ethereal light that seemed to emanate from the very stones, was a nexus, a point where the veil between the world above and the catacombs below was thinnest. The walls were lined with intricate carvings, not of death, but of life, depicting the catacombs not as a tomb, but as a cradle of history, a foundation upon which the city of Paris was built. At the center of the chamber stood an ancient artifact, not the source of curse they had feared, but a beacon, a key to understanding the true purpose of the catacombs. As Alex approached, drawn by an unseen force, the artifact pulsed with a warm light, inviting them to uncover its secrets. Touching the artifact, Alex was flooded with visions, not of darkness, but of light, of the countless souls whose remains lined the catacombs, each a story, a life that had contributed to the tapestry of Paris itself. These were not prisoners of the dark, but guardians of history, keepers of the essence that made the city above so vibrant, so alive. The catacombs, Alex realized, were not a place of fear and death, but a sanctuary of memory, a bridge between the past and the present. The spectral entities that had pursued them were not malevolent spirits, but manifestations of the catacombs' protective essence, awakened to guard against those who would disturb the sacred balance. This revelation challenged everything Alex had believed about the catacombs, transforming their perception of reality. The darkness they had feared was not an abyss, but a reflection, a mirror to the light that resides in the memory and legacy of the past. The catacombs were a part of Paris as much as the city was a part of them. A symbiotic relationship that transcended time, a reminder that even in death, there is life, and in memory, a power that binds the fabric of history together. Armed with this new understanding, the group found their way forward, guided by the light of the artifact, which now seemed to illuminate their path with a purpose. The journey back to the world above was not just a physical ascent, but a metaphysical awakening, a journey from darkness into light, from fear into understanding. As they emerged from the catacombs, blinking against the brightness of the day, the city of Paris greeted them with open arms, its beauty not just a facade, but a reflection of the depth and complexity of the stories buried beneath its streets. The group, forever changed by their journey, carried with them the truth of the catacombs, a truth that would forever alter their perception of the world around them. Join us, dear listeners, as our tale of darkness and light concludes. A journey that began in the shadows but ended in the illumination of truth. In the catacombs beneath Paris, history whispers not just of the past, but of the connection to the present, a reminder that, in the heart of darkness, there is always light, waiting to be discovered. Welcome to the end of our journey, where the true nature of the catacombs is revealed, not as a tomb, but as a testament to the enduring spirit of humanity. As dawn's light began to reclaim the sky above Paris, our diminished group of explorers found themselves on the threshold of escape from the catacombs' embrace. The revelations within the heart of the catacombs had shifted their burden of fear to one of awe and respect. But the path to the surface was far from clear. The understanding that the catacombs served as a sanctuary of history and memory did not diminish the dangers that lay in their final passage to freedom. With the group dwindling in number, each step towards the exit was laden with the weight of their experiences, the loss of Thomas, and the secrets laid bare. The light from the artifact, now a beacon in Alex's possession, guided them through the labyrinth with a purpose that seemed to resonate with the very walls of the catacombs themselves. Yet, as they neared the exit, the tranquility that had settled over them was shattered by a resurgence of the supernatural forces that bound the catacombs. The guardians, spectral entities that had once pursued them through the darkness, emerged not as foes, but as the final test of the group's understanding and respect for the sacred ground upon which they trod. The air thickened, and the shadows deepened, coalescing into forms both terrifying and majestic. These were the keepers of the catacombs, manifestations of its protective essence, and they stood between the group and their escape, a final confrontation that would determine their fate. Alex stepped forward, the artifact in hand, a silent communication flowing between them and the guardians. Words were unnecessary. The exchange was one of emotion, of intent. Alex's understanding of the catacombs' true nature, gained through the visions imparted by the artifact, was their plea for passage, a show of respect for the guardians and the millions of souls in their care. The guardians, their forms shimmering in the dim light, seemed to consider Alex's silent appeal. The tension filled the air, a moment suspended in time, where the outcome hung in a balance. It was Marie who broke the silence, her voice a whisper that carried the weight of her earlier confessions, and her newfound respect for the stories encapsulated within these ancient walls. "We are but temporary stewards of history," she said, her words echoing softly in the chamber. "We seek only to return to the world above, carrying with us the lessons learned in the depths." The guardians, silent and imposing, seemed to listen, their forms wavering as if caught in an unseen breeze. Then, as if in agreement, they stepped aside, the path to the surface clear. The group, understanding the magnitude of this gesture, passed through the spectral forms with a reverence born of their journey's trials. As they ascended the final steps to the surface, The light of dawn greeted them, a symbol of their harrowing journey from darkness into enlightenment. The city of Paris, unaware of the odyssey that had unfolded beneath its streets, carried on, its heartbeat a testament to the living history the group had encountered below. Their escape from the depths was not just a physical return, but a spiritual awakening, a recognition of the thin veil that separates the present from the past, the living from the memories of those who have gone before. The final confrontation with the supernatural forces of the catacombs had not been a battle, but an understanding, a passage earned through respect, and a willingness to see beyond the veil of fear. Join us, dear listeners, as we reflect on the journey of our explorers, a tale of darkness, discovery, and the enduring power of memory. In the catacombs beneath Paris, they found not just the shadows of the past, but a light that guides the way forward, a reminder that, in the heart of darkness, there lies the potential for enlightenment. Welcome to the conclusion of our journey, where the bonds of history and humanity are forever intertwined. Beneath the streets of Paris, in the catacombs, eternal embrace. As the first rays of dawn kissed the rooftops of Paris, casting a golden glow over the city of light, our protagonists emerged from the catacombs, forever altered by their odyssey through the heart of darkness. The streets, alive with the hustle and bustle of the waking city, seemed alien to them now, a stark contrast to the silent, ancient world they had left behind. Among them, Alex stood, the weight of the artifact in her pocket a constant reminder of the truths uncovered in the depths. In the days that followed, Alex found themselves adrift in a world that had continued without them, untouched by the revelations and horrors of the catacombs. They struggled to reconcile the Paris above, a city of beauty and light, with the Paris below, a realm of shadows and memory. The experience had changed them, not just in the way they viewed the city, but in the very essence of their being. The catacombs had peeled back the layers of reality, revealing a world where history breathed, where the past lingered in the present, a testament to the enduring spirit of humanity. That, as life returned to a semblance of normalcy, a nagging sense of unease began to take root in Alex's mind. The encounters with the spectral guardians, the revelations imparted by the artifact, had suggested an end to their ordeal, a closure to the chapter of darkness they had traversed. But the city, with its layers of history, held secrets that refused to be contained. It was on a late, sleepless night that Alex felt the pull of the catacombs once more. The artifact, previously a source of light and guidance, now throbbed with a cold intensity, as if calling them back to the depths. Conflicted, Alex pondered the possibility that their journey was not yet complete, that the catacombs had more to reveal, more to demand of them. The realization dawned upon Alex in a moment of chilling clarity. The catacombs were not just a repository of the past. They were a living entity, a being that breathed and watched, its appetite for memory and history insatiable. Their escape had been permitted, not concluded, a temporary reprieve in a continuing saga that bound them to the catacombs more tightly than they had imagined. As Alex wrestled with this revelation, the city around them seemed to sift, the familiar streets whispering secrets of their own, echoes of the catacombs that lay beneath. The line between the world above and the world below blurred, a reminder that the horror of the catacombs was far from over. It was a truth that Alex could not escape, a calling that resonated with the very core of their being. And so, dear listeners, our story concludes, not with an ending, but with the promise of a beginning. The Catacombs of Paris, with their endless corridors and hidden chambers, continue to watch, to wait, for those brave enough to explore their depths. The journey of our protagonists serves as a reminder that some mysteries refuse to be solved, some histories refuse to be silent, and the darkness, once encountered, remains a shadow that follows, ever present, ever vigilant. In the heart of Paris lies a darkness that is alive, a story that is far from finished, and a horror that is, indeed, far from over. The catacombs call, and for Alex, and perhaps for us all, the adventure continues, a never-ending exploration of the thin veil that separates the light from the darkness, the past from the present, and the living from the echoes of the dead. Welcome to the catacombs, where history whispers, and the journey is never truly complete. As our journey into the depths of the Parisian catacombs comes to a close, we find ourselves at the threshold of the known and the unknown, where history intertwines with myth, and the shadows of the past cast long into the present. Our explorers, forever marked by their descent into the heart of darkness, have emerged into the light of day, carrying with them not just the physical remnants of their journey, but the psychological echoes of the mysteries they encountered. The Catacombs of Paris, a labyrinth of history and horror, have revealed their secrets sparingly, whispering of a world that exists in the delicate balance between life and death, memory and oblivion. Our protagonists, changed in ways they could never have anticipated, find themselves standing at the precipice of a new understanding, a realization that some doors, once opened, cannot be closed again. The artifact, a key to the past and a beacon to the future, remains a silent guardian of the stories untold, a reminder of the journey yet to come. For the catacombs are not merely a resting place for the dead, they are a living entity, a keeper of secrets that binds the city of Paris to its ancient roots, a heart that beats in the darkness, pulsing with the lives and memories of those who have walked its stone corridors. As we conclude our tale, let us remember that the darkness of the catacombs is but a reflection of our own fears, our own histories, and our own humanity. The true horror lies not in the shadows, but in the stories left untold, the memories forgotten in the light of day. Thank you, dear listeners, for joining us on this journey into the unknown. May the stories we've shared inspire you to explore the depths of your own world, to seek out the mysteries that lie hidden beneath the surface, and to remember that in every shadow, there lies a story waiting to be told. This has been a journey into the heart of darkness, into the catacombs of Paris, where history whispers from the depths, and the adventure, though concluded for now, is never truly over. Until our paths cross again in the search for the unknown, keep the light of curiosity alive, and beware the darkness, for it is never far from sight. Farewell for now, from the catacombs beneath Paris, and from our tale of exploration and discovery. May the echoes of our story resonate with you as you navigate the labyrinth of your own adventures.